There's this study that talks about New Year's resolutions and how they fall off. And the interesting thing about this study and what it really says is that around, I think it's 80%, don't quote me on this, but it's around 80%. Around 80% of people that have set New Year's resolutions in January actually give up on them by February. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? By February, they've given up on the same resolutions they set in January. It sounds ridiculous. Like, you've set resolutions for 12 months, and by the second month, you've given up on it already. Now, a lot of you might be wondering why. Is it because you have that boost of motivation at the beginning of the year and then that kind of fizzles out, or is it something else? I'll tell you what I think it is. I think that we are really great at making goals, but we're not great at tracking them. I think we're great at creating goals, but we're not great at measuring them. I think we are great at planning goals, but we're not great at executing them. I think that's the problem. And so today's episode is heavily focused on goal setting, and I want to really emphasize the strategies. I was looking for the word. Strategies, the methods, the frameworks that have worked for me when it comes to goal setting. The first thing I want to do is I want to introduce this very popular coaching tool called the Wheel of Life. It's a very, very popular tool in the coaching world, and I'd like to introduce you to it, but then also I would like to walk you through. So first and foremost, what is the Wheel of Life? Well, it's a tool designed and it's an exercise designed to help you audit your life. Now, what does that mean? That means that it helps you assess where you are right now in your life and where you want to go and what your priorities should be. And I'm going to step by step walk you through the exercise, and then at the end, on the last step, I will make a slight modification to the exercise, adding my own little twist, which I think is personally better than the original. But then I'll also tell you what the original step would have been in that last stage. So the first step is, if you've got pen and paper, great, grab it. If you only got your phone and your notes app, that's fine, that'll work as well. So if you have pen and paper, draw a circle and divide it into 8 slices. And if you only got your notes app, then just write the next headlines that I'm about to say. So each slice is gonna equate to a headline, and those headlines are family and friends, health, business and career, finances, romance, physical environment, fun and recreation, and personal growth. Those are the 8 areas of life that I want you to write down on each slice, or if you're on your phone, then just write it down on the notes. And then what I want you to do is, well, first of all, look at all of those and let me know if you think that represents your entire life. Do all those areas of life represent your life in its entirety? And maybe you might say, actually, no, Eric, I'm missing spirituality. Okay, cool. Add spirituality. Just add it in. Or you might say that actually, business and career, I kind of see it as separate, Eric. I see business and career as separate things. Cool, split it out. Or you might even say that actually, I think health should be 2 things. It should be physical health and mental health. Again, cool, let's split it out. Do it as you please, as long as you feel like you're getting a 360 overview of your entire life, and that everything in that circle or in your phone's notes represents the entire spectrum of your life. Once you've done this, then what I want you to do next is very simple. I want you to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low and terrible, and 10 being high and excellent. Let's use those as the framing of that scale. And I want you to rate yourself from 1 to 10 on where you think you are in each of those areas of life. So on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you fully and currently see yourself in your health area of life? Do you think you're a 1, you're a 10, you're a 8, you're a 4, you're a 5, you're a 6? Where do you see yourself? And I know you might be asking, well, I don't know, Eric, what represents an 8 and what represents a 4. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. 1 is low, 10 is high. Where do you personally, according to your personal and subjective opinions and standards, where do you think you are currently in your life when it comes to that area of life? Health, finances, career, wherever. All the areas of life that we just walked through. So I want you to do that exercise first. That's the first step. Score yourself from 1 to 10 on every single area of life, according to where you feel like you currently are. Then the next step after that is we're going to rate ourselves again from 1 to 10. But this time, it's not answering the question of where you currently are. It's answering the question of where you want to be in the next 12 months. So in the next 12 months, where do you want to be in your life when it comes to that area? In your health, in your finances, in your business, again, everything that we just walked through in terms of areas of life. And I want you to rate yourself in that frame. Once you've done that for every single area of life, here's where the third step gets interesting. And here's where I've kind of changed it a little bit. So, and I'll tell you the original step, but I'm going to tell you my modification first because I think it's better. So you've got the ratings for where you are, and you've got the ratings for where you want to be in the next 12 months. Now, forget about the ratings. Just forget about the numbers, forget about the scorings, forget about that just for a second. What I want you to do now is I want you to tell me and rank them in terms of priority order. So when you look at every single area of life that you just wrote down, rank them in terms of priority order. Right? Which one is your number one priority right now? Which one is your second, your third, your fourth, all the way to the 8th or the 10th, depending on how many areas of life you wrote down. So I want you to rank them in priority order. Now, what you should have at the end of this exercise is you should have a scoring for where you are in your life, a scoring for where you want to be in your life, and a priority order that you've prioritized yourself, not based on the numbers, just simply based on what you believe are your priorities right now. So the original exercise, what it would have done is it would have basically said to you, okay, look at the scores and just work out the difference. So for example, if in spirituality right now I'm a 2 and I want to be a 7, then that is a gap of 5. And then you kind of just do this quick maths across every single area. And the original exercise, what it would have said is, look at your biggest gap in terms of difference. That is your number one priority. That's what the original exercise would have told you to do. I disagree. I totally disagree with that approach because, for example, in this example that I just gave you, spirituality might be my biggest gap right now in life, but that doesn't make it automatically my biggest priority. It just doesn't. And in fact, it isn't my biggest priority. So even though it's the biggest gap, it's not the biggest priority for me, which is why I introduced you to that little adaptation of the exercise, because I think it's important that you prioritize it based on what you believe is the priority levels, not based on some numbers that add up or subtract and give this value. So that's that exercise. Now, once you've done that, you're kind of clear on the scorings, but more importantly, you're clear on your priorities. And here's where it gets interesting, because now I want you to, and this is the next thing that I want us to do, right? So that was the wheel of life. We've done that. Now, the next thing that I want us to do is to actually set some goals. And everyone loves goal setting. I personally love intention setting, right? Well, terminology doesn't matter. So with the goals that I want you to think about is when you think about the areas of life that are your top priorities, where do you want to be in the next 12 months? This time, it's not about writing down a score number. This time it's actually just writing down specifically where do you want to be, what do you want to have, how do you want to feel, what do you want to have done or to be doing or to do in the next 12 months in that area of your life. Health, finances, career, business, whatever, right? So just write down, spend some time reflecting and write down what is your goal for the next 12 months. Once you've done that, you're basically just reverse engineering. you are effectively reverse engineering where you want to be and kind of working out how to get there. And you are doing that by setting yourself milestones. And this is why it's so important that you don't just focus on setting the goals, but you focus on tracking the goals. This is why that is so important, because now you can say, well, that's where I want to be. How do I get there? And you kind of break it down. And I like to do this by doing something that I feel like most people miss out on. Let me know if you resonate to this, because I used to be this type of person. I used to be so excited about setting my New Year's resolutions and setting my goals. And, it gets to the end of December, woohoo, let's just write down my goals for 2024, 2025, whatever the case is. And I'd get so excited about it. And then I wouldn't look at those goals anymore. Like, I would look at them at the end of December when I set them, and then I wouldn't look at them again. And then I'd get to the end of the year, and that would be the next time that I look at them. And then, of course, I would be disappointed because I didn't achieve certain goals out of that list. I might have achieved some of them, but I didn't achieve all of them. And I would wonder why. Well, it's no surprise, really. Like, if I didn't even bother to check the goals again, then what do I expect? If I'm only checking it 12 months later, then I don't even have the opportunity to see if I'm on the right tracks or not. So of course, I am not going to achieve all the goals because I'm not tracking them. Remember, it's not just about setting goals, it's about tracking goals. And the way that I like to do it is by introducing a quarterly check-in. Similar to how businesses run. Every business tends to look at their goals every 3 months. Every 3 months, they tend to look at what is it that they've achieved, what's the progress, what's things looking like. And this is kind of how I want us to look at things. I want us to look at things from the same framework, which is set your goal for the 12 months, but then set your milestone for every 3 months. So what do you want to have achieved by the first quarter of the year? What do you want to have achieved by the second quarter of the year, the third, the fourth? Once you've defined that, then I want you to, again, reverse engineer that. What do I need to do? What are the daily and weekly actions and steps that I need to take in order to make sure that I hit those milestones? And so you might say, well, I need to, let's give health as an example, because it might be more relatable. I want to look and feel and be the healthiest that I've ever been in the next 12 months. Okay, well, what does that imply in terms of a daily and weekly action? Well, I need to make sure I'm going gym 5 times a week. Again, that's my personal choice. I need to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep per night. I need to make sure that I am drinking a gallon of water a day. I need to make sure that, so notice how you kind of like breaking it down into actions and steps that you can take every day or every week to make sure that you get there. And so you have the 12-month goal, you have the quarterly check-in, and then you have the daily and weekly actions and steps. And if you do this the right way, and you figure it out in the ways that I've described, there is little room for you to be off track. And I'll tell you why, because the check-ins are important for a particular reason. They're important because in 3 months' time, you get to reflect on the progress. And you might be that you look at it and be like, oh, I'm on the wrong tracks. Like, I'm not making the progress that I want. So it's giving you an opportunity to change something. What action or step do I need to change? What do I need to do more of or less of? What do I need to do differently? But also, what it's giving you is an opportunity to think, is this even still a goal of mine? And this is why I want to give you permission. Because for a long time, I didn't give myself permission, which was give yourself permission to change goals. Just because you set a goal in January doesn't mean that that goal has to persist until December if you have changed your mind, if you have changed your goals. You see, you shouldn't look at your goals as a life sentence. You should look at them as a life experiment. And that's really what it is. You're experimenting with life. If you have changed your mind, your beliefs, your perspectives, and what used to be a goal at the beginning of the year no longer is, give yourself permission to change. You don't need to attach yourself to it. And I hope that helps. I hope that you implement these check-ins specially because they allow you to reflect and allow you to track what is going on. And I hope that really, really helps you moving forward when you do your goal setting and that you can start looking towards goal achieving. Now, there's a segment of the podcast, as you know, called Just a Moment. Stephen Bartlett created the conversation cards, which I absolutely love. They are filled with questions inside. Each card has a question, and I thought it would be cool if at the end of every episode, I take out a card, I read the question, and then I have to answer. Whatever question comes out, I just have to answer it. Let's see how deep we get into this episode. So let me open the cards and let me take one from the front. So you get to see it first. Let me see. What is a personal legacy you want to leave for yourself and or your children? This was a question asked by Black Coffee and David Harwood, if I'm saying his name correctly. David Harwood answered the question on Stephen's podcast. What is a personal legacy you want to leave for yourself and for your children? I don't often think about legacy, if I'm being honest, because I'm so focused and embedded into the present that I don't think about legacy, and I almost feel like legacy is almost like a thing in the future. But I guess if I was reflecting on legacy, I probably would say that I just want to leave the world a better place than when I found it. And I know that sounds very cliche, but it's the truth. I want to have some sort of positive impact in the world. I want to be remembered for being a good person with a good heart who did good. That for me is the legacy that I envision for myself. As far as children goes, I don't have children yet. One day when I do have children, I think there's two things that I believe are really important to me. It's making sure they have self-awareness about themselves and they have self-awareness about the world. That's really what I want for my children in the future when I do have them, is that they understand more about themselves and that they understand more about the world. And I feel like if they have these two tools at their disposal, if they understand themselves deeply and they understand the world deeply, I feel like they'll be in a better place to navigate the nuances of this world. That's what I would say. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I only have one thing to ask from you. If you've enjoyed this episode and if you've learned something from this episode, then I would really, really appreciate it if you could just hit the subscribe button. Wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, whichever platform you're on right now, if you could take a couple of seconds and just hit the subscribe button, that would mean the world to me and it would help the podcast grow so much. Thank you.